This is the infrared reversing radar DIY soldering kit. I thought this would be an interesting little kit to assemble here today on the channel. So let's take a look inside and see what you get. Okay, so quite a few different components for us to install in the PCB. Fortunately, the kit does come with some instructions, and that includes a bill of materials here that will help us identify where each of the components go. And I think that's going to be fairly important due to the surface mount components that are listed here, and there's quite a few of them in this section just here. So let's take a little look at the PCB. As I've mentioned, there are some surface mount components. The two ICs here are surface mount, as well as some of the resistors here as well that go around the board. The PCB is technically double-sided, but as you can see, there's actually only really one trace other than the ground plane here on the rear side of the board. As mentioned, we have the two ICs, and we'll take a little closer look at them when we go to install them. We have some light-emitting diodes, or LEDs. These are visible light diodes. And I mention that because we have infrared diodes here. And so one of these is an emitter, and one of these is a receiver. We have some electrolytic capacitors, a couple of different types there by the looks of things. Again, we'll look more closely when we get to install them. We have some ceramic type capacitors as well. Again, checking the values when we install. Two signal diodes just here. The aforementioned surface mount resistors, I think these are all resistors in this case, no surface mount capacitors. Fortunately, surface mount resistors are marked, so we should be able to identify the values. We have two multi-turn potentiometers, or variable resistors, that allow us to tune the circuit. And we have this socket here, which I assume is for the power connector, although they haven't provided us with any wires that fit into that connector, so I may forgo using that on this occasion. As is usual with kits containing surface mount components, I'm going to start in the center of the board and work outwards, and that almost universally means starting with the ICs that we have just here. So let's turn on the soldering iron and get started. Now, if we look at the PCB and we look at the ICs that have been provided, we will only be able to fit each of the ICs in one position. So the large IC goes where the large IC pads are. And the smaller IC obviously goes where the smaller IC pads are. I don't know if you can make it out there, but this is an NE555 or 555 timer chip. And on the left-hand side, we can see the stripe. This matches up with the notch on the board, so this IC goes this way around. So I'm going to get started by installing this IC first in this orientation. Okay, so we've tacked the IC on with one leg here, then we need to just go along and solder on the rest of the legs. There we go, that IC is installed, and as you saw, a little bit of flux from a flux pen just here made all the difference there in clearing any shorts. Next we have our LM324, and again there's a stripe on the left hand side that I hope you can make out, and we will install it this way round on the board. Again, we've lined up all those legs, so let's just finish up the soldering. And this time I went straight in with lots of solder and plenty of flux, and as you see, that's come out quite nicely. Next, we're going to move on to the surface mount resistors. And these are all marked with resistor numbers, and so we'll need to check on the bill of materials to see which resistors go where. As you can see here, we have R1, R4, through to R8 and R18 are all 1K resistors, and there should be 7 of those total. So 1, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 and 18, that does indeed give us 7. And this strip here has 7 inside, so we can try and take a closer look. I don't know if that's going to come across on the camera, but it should say 102, and that's 10 with 2 additional zeros for 1000. That's our 1K resistor. Okay, so that's the first set of resistors installed. If we look at the bill of materials here, our next largest set of resistors is this 4 set of 200, and that's for R9, R12, 13 and 14. So 9, 12 to 14. And we have a packet of 4 resistors just here. So again, not sure if you're going to make this out on the camera, but it should say 201 there, which is 20 and 1 additional 0 for 200 ohms. And you'll notice here I've made a mistake. This is R14, which of course should be one of our 200s, but I've accidentally put the R18 resistor in there. So you'll see I've retinned pad R18 here. So I'm going to move this resistor over first, and then we'll look at installing our 200s. Next, we're expecting 3 10K resistors at R2, R3 and R19. We have 1, 0 and 3, so that's 1, 0 with 3 additional zeros for 10,000. And now, unfortunately, we have only single resistors, which means we need to be very careful when trying to identify each one. So I'll just do them in the order I find them. So this one says 152, so that's 15 with 2 additional zeros for 1.5K. And if we look on the bill of materials here, we can see that will be R10. This one's a little hard to make out, but it says 303, so that's 30 with 3 additional zeros, or 30K. And on our bill of materials here, we can see the 30K is R15. And our final resistor here is 473, so that's 47 and 3 additional zeros for 47K. And we can see our last resistor here is the R16 with 47K, so that looks good. Okay, so that's all of our surface mount components. Next, we're going to move on to do the signal diodes here, D1 and D2. And diodes have a black band on them, and we need to match the band with the direction shown on the PCB. So that means this diode has to go this way, and diode 1 will go the other way around, like so. Next up, let's do our electrolytic capacitors, and we have 2 different types here. We have 2 marked 104, and this one marked with a 20. And as we can see on the bill of materials, C1 and C4 are 104 capacitors, and our C7 is our 20 picofarad capacitor. So 20 picofarad goes in here. It looks like I'm going to have to straighten the legs a little. And we have C1 here and C4 here. Next, let's put in our visible light LEDs just here. You'll notice these LEDs over here are marked with D rather than L. These ones will be our emitter and our receiver for the infrared signal. So our LEDs go here. Now we can look at the bill of materials here and we can see the LEDs are marked. Now unfortunately I can't read Chinese, but I can look at the picture on the AliExpress listing, and that tells us that LED 1 is red, LED 2 is yellow, and LED 3 is green. And this results in red, yellow and green up the board, just like so. Now with our LEDs, just like regular diodes, they do have a direction. The longer lead here is the positive, but we can always check that with a CR2032 coin cell battery. And if we just place the positive terminal on the longer leg, you can see it indeed is the positive leg. And if we turn this round, the LED doesn't illuminate. but if we turn it back again, it does, and that's because the long lead is positive, as you can make out from the terminal on this battery. On the board here, we see the arrow points from the positive to the negative, and that means our LED goes in this way round. And if we look carefully, we can see that the other two LEDs face the other direction, so it's important to get these all in the right way around. So this time the long leg goes on the left, and that's true for the green as well. Before I solder this, you might be able to make out that the longer leg here is on the square pad. Now that's not always universally true, it's usually the case, but sometimes the PCBs are designed or manufactured incorrectly, so you can't 100% rely on that. You should try and always verify. But if you look carefully, you can see the square pad is the longer lead in all of these cases, so the square pad is the positive terminal. So I've soldered one of each of these legs, and what I'm going to do now is just warm the joint up so that we can flatten the LED to the board with some gentle pressure from the other side, and then we hold firm until it's
solid.
So I think I'm going to do these electrolytic capacitors next. We can see we have some different capacitors as well. So if we start off with C5 here, we can see our C5 is a 100 microfarad capacitor. And if we look carefully here, we can see this one is our 100 microfarad. Again, this is a case where the longer lead is positive. The can has a negative symbol marked on it, and that's associated with the shorter lead. So positive here in the side marked positive, and the shaded area is negative. Next up, C6 is 1 microfarad. See if we can find that one. So this is our 1 microfarad. Same arrangement with the legs here. Shorter lead is negative. Our C3 here is a 10 microfarad. And this one here is marked with 10 microfarad. Again, shorter lead negative. And our final capacitor C2 is a 47 microfarad, as we can see here. Next up, I'm going to do these variable resistors or rotary potentiometers. These are multi-turn ones. And if we look carefully here, we can see there are two different ones. The one on my left is marked 503 and the one on my right is marked 504. And that indicates the potentiometer on the left is 50K and the one on the right is 500K. If we look at our bill of materials, we can see our 500K is RP1 and our 50K is RP2. So here is our 50K, that's the 503. And we know which way to put it around the board as there's these little nubs that stick out. And we have a picture of the rotary position as well. So that one goes in here. And our 500K, which is RP1, goes in this socket here, or this space here. Same way round, following the diagram. Last of the actual components, we have our infrared emitter and receiver LEDs. We need to put these in the right way round. We can see we have D4 and D3. Now, I'm sure these are described in the Chinese here, but again, my Chinese isn't up to snuff for that kind of thing. But fortunately, again, we can refer to the diagram and we can see that the clear one goes on the left and the dark one goes on the right. And again, the polarities will be the same as before. So the longer lead will be the positive and the shorter lead will be the negative. Now, in a clear LED, you can see quite clearly the internal piece here. And the larger piece of metal here is commonly known as the anvil, and that will be associated with the shorter leg here, so the negative side of the diode. Now, in the picture on the listing, these are placed flat against the board, but I think on this occasion, I'm going to bend them and point them out forwards so I can kind of use it as a distance sensor, holding it like so, and have something going away from me in that direction. And of course, I can always shorten them later if I change my mind. So let's go ahead and do that. So I can have the LED sticking off the end just like so. And I'm going to use the first one there as a template for the second one, making sure to bend the legs in the correct direction. So this time I need to make sure the LED points this way. There we go. And as I mentioned, I can always chop these off and insert them flat to the board if I change my mind later. So no harm in doing it this way. Now, the final piece of equipment they gave us to install is this socket, but they didn't give us any wires for it, so I'm actually not going to use the socket on this occasion. I've got a couple of pieces of wire here, which I'm just going to tin and install directly in the board, black for negative and red for positive. Okay, so we're all done. Just checking to see on here if there's any information about the voltage. And just down here, we can see it says 9 volts. So I'm going to need to get my adjustable power supply. So here's that. We just need to adjust it to around 9 volts. There we go. That's going to do nicely. Then we can connect up the leads. Then hopefully it can detect the distance. So it does look like it is detecting the proximity there. So we can try adjusting these potentiometers here to adjust the sensitivity. Okay. And there we go. Now we can detect multiple distances as I go further and closer to the board. So I suspect that one of these will adjust the sensitivity of the detector. Now I believe the one on the left will be our infrared LED, and this will be our detector. We can have a little look at the schematic diagram here. Okay, so it turns out that D3 here indeed is the emitter. That has a constant power by the looks of it, or it's controlled at least by this NE555 here. There's no sensitivity or brightness adjustment. But there is a sensitivity adjustment just here on the operational amplifier, and again over here as well to adjust the output range of the output LEDs as well. These ones just here. So the 500K is adjusting the range for these LEDs, and the 50K is adjusting the sensitivity. So it seems here that I've adjusted the range here by adjusting the 504, and that's just adjusting the range on the differences between these LEDs, and this one would be used to adjust the sensitivity. Although for now, I think I'm pretty happy with that, so I'm just going to leave it as is, as it does allow me to detect a range of distances. So I think this is an interesting little project. It's not radar, as described in the title, but it is infrared. I think these little components are a little bit challenging to solder for beginners. As you saw, this took me a little while to assemble, but overall I think it's a really fun little project. So I hope you found this video interesting, and I hope to speak to you again soon in the next one.